Hello there. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. An embattled superintendent in northeast Nebraska will be staying, but with conditions set by the school board on Monday. Andrew Pfeiffer has more.
Well, here we are again outside of Plainview High School, where the Board of Education discussed the negotiations of consequences when it comes to Plainview Superintendent Dr. Darren Arlt. For those that don't know, Arlt came under fire just a few weeks back for comments he made about women's wrestling in Plainview, where consequences were finally acted on. On Monday evening, the Plainview Board of Education finally engaged the public when it came to the recent online comments from Dr. Darren Arlt. Some voiced their support of the superintendent and others some displeasures.
He may have said that the girls were not ready for prime time, but he also followed that up with they're ready for their own spotlight.
Next year's wrestling program will be a disaster for Plainview Public Schools. They will hold it against our kids.
I just don't think there's a person in Plainview that wants Plainview or Plainview Community Schools to succeed more than Dr. Arlt.
After a handful of mixed reviews from the public, the board came to a 5-1 vote to keep Arlt in his remaining position. The Board of Education claimed there was a majority when it came to the public input on the matter, and it weighed in Arlt's favor.
It is not just what our opinions are as board members. We heard you as a community. This is your voice, this is your decision. There was a vast majority of what people wanted to happen here. You were heard.
The conditions of Arlt's terms include continuing to work remotely up until March 6th, also a 12th reduction of pay on his remaining 5 pay periods of his contract, discontinuing posting on personal social media, and will be required to attend a board-approved educational course on leadership.
Be wise when revealing anything from your heart on social media. If you feel you must say it, let it marinate for a bit in your head before you say it. Will what you say inflame or calm? Will it bring hurt or comfort? Is it true? Is it necessary to say?
The consequence negotiations came to a 5-1 vote, and Dr. Darren Arlt will be soon returning to Plainview after serving his punishment. Reporting in Plainview, Andrew Pfeiffer, News Channel Nebraska.
Nearly 14 months after the FBI searched the southeast Nebraska home of a financial advisor originally from Wayne, there are still no charges filed against Jesse Hill. The Wayne High grad, who starred in baseball and basketball for the Blue Devils before playing at UNK, saw his Hickman home searched in late 2022. The case, first reported by Nebraska Examiner, has been described as the state's largest involving bank fraud. Now, a year ago, multiple banks filed civil lawsuits against Hill, alleging he provided fabricated financial statements that helped his client and friend, Aaron Marshbanks, get loans. It's part of what investigators allege is a bank scam exceeding $30 million. But as the Nebraska Examiner reports, no charges have been filed against him as of this month. The civil courses against Hill also are on hold. Legal experts say the delays in filing criminal charges could be due to federal charges taking longer to process or possibly because of a lack of evidence. A federal complaint is asking the U.S. Department of Education to investigate whether Nebraska school officials outed a transgender middle school student last fall without parental consent. The new complaint alleges school administrators at a Lincoln middle school violated federal legislation which prohibits schools from disclosing personally identifiable information in education records. The ACLU filed the lawsuit for the parents. They say the case revolves around a 12-year-old trans girl's parents who had a private meeting with school administrators at the start of the girl's time in middle school last August. They learned shortly afterward from the president of a private organization that he had just learned the girl is trans. The ACLU has declined to publicly identify the school that's listed in the complaint. Well, the cost of cybercrime expected to reach $10.5 trillion by next year, and Nebraska lawmakers are seeking a potential preventative solution. State Senator Lauren Lippincott of Central City has put LB 1302 in front of the legislature's Government, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee. The bill seeks $11 million in annual appropriations to prevent cyber attacks. Senator Mike McDonnell of Omaha introduced a similar bill last year, which would have set aside $20 million annually. Lippincott says McDonnell's bill failed to advance by one vote last year. Meanwhile, Governor Jim Pillen surprised many on Monday when he reversed course, saying Nebraska would, in fact, be enrolling in a federal EBT program designed to help kids who are out of school over the summer. And as Ana Ruth Lugo Mejia reports, a central Nebraska state senator was instrumental in getting the governor to change his mind.
More than 150,000 students in Nebraska will now be eligible for a summer food assistance program. Governor Jim Pillen said for months that he wouldn't accept $18 million in federal funds that would provide extra money for food assistance over the summer for low-income families. On Monday, he announced he had changed his mind. Among the factors that led to his flip, a conversation with Senator Ray Aguilar of Grand Island.
I went to his office and we had a very congenial meeting. You know, he explained to me why he wasn't for it, and I explained to him why I was, because of the importance it is to my community. Very important, and I was committed to it, and he probably wasn't going to be able to change my mind. I made that point very clear.
Aguilar says Grand Island public school officials told him they have one of the state's highest percentages for low-income and free lunch programs. Grand Island also has one of the lower medium incomes for cities in Nebraska. Those facts motivated him to propose LB 952 and make it his priority bill. If passed, it would have required the state to implement the federal food program.
Very proud moment for me and enjoyable to get up in front of my peers and say, look what we got done. We accomplished our goal, and we don't have to count votes or anything. We did it the easy way.
In addition to vendor issue cards, the program will have supplemental features such as educational outreach to families, a website that provides connections to other summer programs, trained staff with DHHS to assess other needs, and more. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, an estimated 150,000 students or 80,000 households will be eligible to receive the benefits of the program. In Grand Island, Ana Ruth Lugo Mejia, New Channel, Nebraska.
House Speaker Mike Johnson threatening to kill the Senate's $95.3 billion aid package for Ukraine and Israel. He issued a statement Monday making that threat. Johnson wrote that the legislation fails to meet the mandate of securing America's borders. The impasse represents a fundamental disagreement between Republicans and Democrats. Republicans say they want stronger measures at the southern border before agreeing to supplemental foreign aid. Democrats are prioritizing aid for Ukraine and Israel. The Senate package cleared a test vote Monday evening. That puts the measure on a glide path toward final passage, perhaps by the end of the week. Johnson last week helped kill an emergency aid package that he also said lacked sufficient border security. Hastings looking to expand its landfill on the southwest edge of town. They're buying land currently owned by the state. Hastings Utilities says their current landfill isn't close to filling up yet, but could do so within the next decade. The proposed land they're looking at spans about 127 acres directly to the north of the landfill. That land, owned by the state, carries a current price tag of $1.45 million. City officials say it's too good of an opportunity to pass up and would provide many future benefits, especially to taxpayers.
One is the property is obviously adjacent to the landfill. There is no need for a new public access. We can just use the existing access we got. There's no change in the scale house, location, or any of the support buildings. We can use all of those, just keep right on it. That avoids significant capital improvements if we had to go someplace off-site.
But the city council was split on the measure. In the end, the 8 council members voted a 4-4 tie. Mayor Corey Studi then cast the tie-breaking vote in favor. The city will now finalize the sale with the state, then can begin development and construction on the new land. Officials in Hastings, meanwhile, getting closer to implementing a plan to revamp Lake Hastings. The city's teaming up with 2 natural resource districts and the state on the project. They're hosting a 3rd open house meeting on the topic Tuesday evening. Stormwater technician Bryce Helm says the first steps of the project involve the land that drains into the waterways that feed Lake Hastings.
You kind of start from outside of the lake and work with the filtration system, how the water gets into the lake, and that's it's cleaning itself essentially before it gets to the lake.
Lake Hastings has been classified as a so-called impaired lake for nearly 2 decades because of high levels of phosphorus and nitrogen. Helm says the project would implement better management practices and reduce concerning chemical levels. He says he expects outreach efforts to begin this winter. He also says the plan doesn't include a full dredging of the lake. Parts of it, though, could end up being dredged. The latest consumer price index is out Tuesday. The CPI looks at a group of common expenses, food, rent, things like that, and how they've changed. It's a key data point showing how the economy is doing. Amy Kiley has more.
Our economy is our business.
So, how is that business doing? A key inflation gauge out today helps answer that question. The Consumer Price Index looks at a collection of typical household goods and services and how their prices change over time. It's facing upward pressures like recent gas prices inching higher and Mideast unrest endangering the global supply chain. But the CPI's overall trend for the past year or so is largely down. On the business side, that's also true for the Producer Price Index. Data like that has some economists feeling pretty optimistic.
The world economy is now poised for this soft landing we have been dreaming for.
The Consumer Confidence Survey shows Americans are starting to believe in that soft landing. Another sign of optimism is the Dow Jones setting a new record high yesterday. President Joe Biden is trumpeting the positive trends, proclaiming that the economy is doing well.
I've kept my commitment to leave no one behind, to rebuild an economy from the middle out and the bottom up.
But life isn't the same as before the pandemic. Prices are still historically high, and consumer confidence has yet to rebound completely. Many political challengers are emphasizing that.
This is the time that we need to be sober and start realizing what we need to do to fix things.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
The economy not great for one central Nebraska school district. They're preparing for budget cuts. Grand Island Public Schools say they've been considering staffing changes in an effort to reduce their budget. Superintendent Matt Fisher says the district has until mid-April to make decisions regarding teachers and administrators.
We had an intent form that was due, basically for our teachers to indicate whether they plan to come back for next year or not. Now that we have those intents, we're going to basically go through those and figure out, can we move this person from this position that's being eliminated to another position that's going to open up.
Fisher says his hope is that staff retire or move away to minimize how many positions the district needs to cut. Fisher says the goal is that the cuts wouldn't be detrimental to students. But the Academies and Pathways model has already cut some of its programs, including law, information technology, and welding, back in December. The district has a $130 million budget. They're looking to cut about $5 million. Doctors, nurses, and parents all scrambling now that one of the most commonly prescribed childhood asthma medications is no longer being manufactured in the U.S. Pharmaceutical company GSK took Flovent off the shelves with the new year and replaced it with an identical generic version. Now, ahead of the switch, the company said it would help provide patients with potentially lower costs. That hasn't necessarily been the case. Some insurance companies don't cover the generic version, while alternatives might not work for certain children or can be hard to find. Flovent and its generic version reduce inflammation in the airways of children that are at risk of having a flare-up or an asthma attack. And a tentative summer date has been set for the laying of a cornerstone at the new Beatrice pre-K through 5th grade school. Superintendent Jason Alexander says the district has been working with the local Masonic Lodge on a ceremony for late July.
Basically, the cornerstone is a symbol of the Masons of the state of Nebraska and the hands that do the work on all the buildings across the state. And so they request being able to put the cornerstone in. There's one at the high school, We've tentatively scheduled that ceremony for Saturday, July 27th at 1 p.m. in which case all Masons from the state of Nebraska are invited.
Beatrice's Board of Education gave the go-ahead to plan the event to be held about a month before the new building itself opens. The cornerstone will be located near a north entrance to the building next to the school's gymnasium. You can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com and click on the news tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.